Clarissa Ford received her master's in health communication in 2023. She currently works at GCI Health, a healthcare communication agency. She's courageous and determined to make a difference through her work. In this interview, she talks about the importance of social corporate responsibility and her mottos that help her get ahead. Hello, Clarissa. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me in this interview. I really, really appreciate it.
Awesome, excited to talk.
Thank you. Could you tell me your journey being a part of Rutgers to your position right now?
Yeah, for sure. I always had a fascination with media and communication, so I always knew that was my passion. I went to school in Philadelphia. I have an undergraduate degree in strategic communication and public relations. After college, I moved to New York City and began my career working for public relations agencies, where I was working across a variety of consumer health and wellness brands. And while I never really expected to go back to graduate school, once the pandemic hit, I really saw how important health information was and the importance of communicating that information just to the general public and how complex it was. So I began working at a more healthcare focused public relations agency, specifically working on oncology brands for pharmaceutical companies. And I also enrolled in Rutgers' new program, which was the Masters of Health Communication Information program, because I really saw as an opportunity to hone in on my skill set and kind of create a specialty for myself.
Wow. So communication is very important and it can get very complex. That is,
Yeah,
could you give me an example of how your work has, could you give me an example of how some skill that you've developed in school or in your workplace that brings you a lot of value?
Yes, the MHCI program was extremely valuable. And the best part was that I could take my learnings and apply them directly into my role within in real time. That was the key. And the media communications landscape that I learned about as an undergraduate was vastly different than the current media landscape. And so much has changed. So I really had to almost start from square one. Today, there's a stronger focus on corporate social responsibility and organizational purpose, diversity and inclusion. And a lot of it has to do a lot with information overload and how to break down really complex messages, especially in the health space where people like the average consumer might not be as aware of medical language and jargon that has been thrown around, say, for example, with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's really hard to break down that scientific medical language into easily to digest language. So the MHCI program was really unique in that it helped me better understand how to break down the complex messaging and make it more digestible for anyone.
Right. That is very important because I felt I feel like saw this somewhere where it's like you got to learn the complex stuff and learn to teach it to a 5-year-old, and that's how everyone will understand it.
Exactly. And that's a lot of what PR is. You have to be an expert in whatever client you are currently representing,
Mm.
whether you're working in family and parenting, health and beauty, you have to become an expert and really invest yourself in understanding what you're speaking to because you have to speak to different stakeholders.
Right. Wow. That's really interesting. So I believe the skill that we're really talking about in this case would be comprehension of like thorough material and complex material, like really developing and then simplifying it. So like that's a lot of intense work. And
Yeah, it's really
the-
hard sometimes.
yeah, and the other skill I'm seeing is being able to like I feel like soft communication, soft skills. Like
Exactly.
that those are like the key. And I wow, that's pretty cool because there's a range of stakeholders and you never know who you're gonna come across.
Yeah, and I always say sometimes communicators are the worst communicators because you're so used to communicating with different stakeholders that you get caught up in the flurry of all these different messages, and sometimes you don't even know how to speak to your own team because you're just so used to communicating with different audiences that you're used to talking with on a daily basis. But it's really important that communications professionals are the experts and they lead by example too.
Leading by example, that's key. So
Yeah.
I want to bring this next question to like about, so you said you talked to a lot of stakeholders and a lot of people. So how important is networking in your field of work?
Yeah, I mean, in this field, it can really be your golden ticket to new opportunities. I got my very first job through a connection that I had met previously at an internship during my college career. And I found my current position actually through a Facebook networking group that was specifically for women. And someone had posted about an opportunity, and I jumped at it and connected with her. And it's really essential to have mentors as well that can help guide your career, especially as it changes. When I first started my career, it was more consumer health, and now it's more pharmaceutical healthcare related work, which is different. So serving as a mentor to others, but also seeking out a mentor for your own career and helping create and pave the way for opportunities for the next generation of leaders, not only for yourself, but in the more junior people as well who are just starting off.
Wow. Building mentorship and having a mentor is a very important process. That is what will set apart some key jobs, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I in college was really a big advocate for mentorship. I was part of the PRSSA program organization, and I was the director of mentorship. And ever since then, I've just really tried to stay true to my roots there, and really just advocate for a mentorship that everyone should seek out a mentor in someone, even if it's someone you talk to a few times a year and can counsel for advice in your own career.
Wow. That's really nice. So I want to bring the next part of the question to what would you say to a student who is struggling right now? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to just be a student of the world and always challenge yourself to keep learning. I think it doesn't matter your age, whether you're just starting off in your career, you're in college, you're in a master's program, you're 20 years in your career. Challenge yourself to always have a pulse on current events and stay attuned to like current technology to see how the landscape is really evolving. Because as a continuous student, you just can't be intimidated by anything new or not knowing something. It's important just to really immerse yourself in new learnings and get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Wow. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I like that. I like
Yeah,
it.
and you never quite learn it. It's an evolutionary process.
It's true. It's definitely an evolutionary process. I
Yeah, you
really
never master it.
that you can never master it, but I like it. I really like it.
Yeah,
So,
my other motto is fake it till you make it.
wow.
If you have confidence in yourself, you can accomplish anything. And as long as other people believe that you know what you're talking about, you can master a skill and kind of mask that maybe the insecurities that you hold within.
Wow. Building yourself and through whether it's fake it till you make it. I think that's a good way of boosting yourself. And I think especially through like the imposter syndrome, so
Yeah.
like, yeah, I really like that too. I love your mottos. They're pretty good for a student who struggle.
Thanks. Yeah, you can always live by them. It doesn't matter the field or what industry you go into.
Got it. Wow. So, well, I would like to thank you very much for your time and this interview. And it has been such a pleasure in having you.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.